One quick question. In order to ask a question about one of the appeals, I have to be a panelist?
And you remember who said that? I'm not sure. Are you unmuted?
Larry Mazias. Hi.
I think he wants to comment on something that's not.
I do have to make you an attendee, Larry, and you'll just raise your hand once that the agenda item that you want to speak on is open for comments. You'll just raise your hand at that point. Thank you.
All right, Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Okay, we're ready. Okay, good morning. The City of Boston Zoning Board of Appeal hearing for December 12th, 2023 is now in session. This hearing is being conducted in accordance with the applicable provisions of the open meeting law, including the updated provisions enacted by the legislature last year. The new law allows the board to continue its practice of holding virtual hearings until March 2025. This hearing of the board is being held remotely via the Zoom webinar event platform. The hearing is also being live streamed. In order to ensure this hearing of the board is open to the public, members of the public may access this hearing through telephone and video conferencing. The information for connecting to this hearing is listed on today's hearing agenda, which is posted on the public notices page of the city's website, boston.gov. Members of the public will enter the virtual hearing as attendees, which means you will not see yourself on the screen and you will be muted throughout unless administratively unmuted when asked to comment. Board members, applicants, and their attorneys or representatives will participate in the hearing as panelists, and they will appear alongside the presentation materials when speaking. Panelists are strongly encouraged to keep video on while presenting to the board. As with our in-person meetings, comments in support will be followed by comments in opposition. The order of comments is as follows. Elected officials, representatives of elected officials, and members of the public. The chair may limit the number of people called upon to offer comment and the time for commenting as time constraints require. For that reason, the board prefers to hear from members of the public who are most impacted by a project, that is, those individuals who live closest to the project. If you wish to comment on an appeal, please click the raise hand button along the bottom of your screen in the Zoom webinar platform. Click it again and your hand should go down. When the host sees your hand, you will receive a request to unmute yourself. Select yes, and you should be able to talk. If you are connected to the hearing by telephone, please press *9 to raise and lower your hand. You must press *6 to unmute yourself after you receive the request from the host. Those called upon to comment will be asked to state their name and address first, and then to provide their comment. In the interest of time and to ensure that you have enough time to do so, please raise your hand as soon as Mr. Stembridge reads the address into the record. Do not raise your hand before the relevant address is called, or the meeting host will not know to call on you at the appropriate time. Okay, Mr. Stembridge.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Present.
Good morning. Mr. Valencia.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Present.
Good morning. Ms. Mukahal.
Good morning. Present.
Thank you. Ms. Prado?
Madam Chair, I don't see her on the panelists yet, but I've asked Stephanie to call her for me.
Okay. Ms. Logue?
Good morning, President.
Good morning. Good to see you. Okay, so at the moment, we are a 5-member board. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Stembridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll start off today with the approval of hearing minutes. We have the minutes from April 25th, May 9th, May 18th, May 23rd, and June 6th, and that is for all of these are for 2023.
Okay, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stembridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. Motion carries.
Next, we'll move on to the extensions scheduled for 9:30 a.m. The first is case BOA 734-923 with the address of 24 to 44 Neelam Street. The board originally granted this relief on January 12th, 2018. This relief remained valid until January 12th, 2020, which expired. This is the applicant's first request for an extension. And we'll ask the applicant and or their representative to explain the situation. And if successful, the extension will be to December 12th, 2024.
Is the applicant present?
No.
Hi, can you raise your hand if you're on for this proposal?
We come back at the end of the extension, Madam Chair.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. We will move on then to case BOA 112-4403 with the address of 160 Geneva Avenue. The board originally granted this relief on January 29th, 2021. This relief remained valid until January 29th, 2023, which expired. This is the applicant's first request for a 1-year extension. And that,
Thank you. We can, let's hear from the applicant.
Oh, sounds good.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm the architect for this project. The owner of this project, we actually applied for the permit and received the approval for the permit last year, and the owner had some health issues that kept him away from work for almost a year. So the permit's actually been, the building permit's actually been approved, and he just never picked it up or paid for it. And so now we're in the situation where it has expired, so we're trying to renew it so we can now continue the permitting and get the permit.
So when you receive it, are you ready to proceed?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Motion to grant the extension until December 12th, 2024.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 107-0807 with the address of 150 River Street. This relief was granted on January 21st. They're requesting an extension until January 29th, 2025. Would the applicant and or their representative please explain to the board?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Stonebridge. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney John Pagini. On behalf of the applicant, this is a partnership between the Planning Office for Urban Affairs and the Caribbean Integration Community Development Company. It's 30 senior affordable units located at 150 River Street in Mattapan. And the reason for the request is the bond financing from the Commonwealth is not available until 2024.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Moving for an extension to December 12th, 2024.
Javier, are we looking for January 29, 2025?
Yes.
So I rise the motion to extend to January 9th, 2024.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Next, we have case BOA 995-08 1699 with the address of 273 Highland Street. Relief was granted on November 15, 2019. The applicant is looking to have an extension granted until February 20th of 2025. Would the applicant and/or the representative please explain the situation to the board?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Secretary, members of the board, Madam Chair, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, Miller and Hanley, LLP, here on behalf of Reese Larkin Development. Madam Chair, this was an Article 80 small project review project. It's an all-affordable project, 23 units, part of the city's E+ building program. The project was originally approved in November 2019. The board granted extensions until February 2023, which included all applicable tolling from the COVID Tolling Act. There was a little bit of confusion on the developer's part. They were under the impression that the previously granted extension was valid for 2 years, similar to the original zoning decision, which is valid for 2 years. They only just recently realized that the zoning relief was expiring in 2023 instead of 2024. So that's the rationale behind the request. As far as a project update, I'm happy to provide one that the project is moving forward. It's fully funded with the mayor, the Mass Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities and the Mayor's Office of Housing. The plans are 100% complete. And again, it's 100% income restricted affordable housing project. It is ready to move forward. They're expecting permits in hand in mid-2024. So we're asking for an extension of the previously granted zoning relief just to deal with things like final design review with the BPDA, Boston Water and Sewer approval, and some of those final last approvals needed to actually get the building permit. But they are expecting to have permits in hand hopefully in mid-2024. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zazula. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Make a motion for an extension of February 20th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahala?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
And finally, for the, and the next case for extension is case BOA 962282 with the address of 40 Berkeley Street. Board originally granted relief on March 13th, 2020. And they are and the applicant is asking for to be extended to June 15th, 2020. I apologize.
2024, Mr.
Why don't we let Mr. Zazula take over from here? Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. Go right ahead.
No, thank you, Mr. Stenbridge. And Madam Chair, again, members of the board, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, Miller and Hanley, LLP. This is a little bit of a different one. We're actually asking for a confirmation, sort of, so to speak, of the zoning relief expiration, and I can quickly tell you why. So this is the Revolution Hotel at 40 Berkeley in the South End. This is for their rooftop outdoor amenity space. And what we're actually looking for is confirmation of the zoning relief expiration. Because of the State of Emergency Tolling Act, this just is not going away. There was some confusion here. And we sent a letter because the zoning relief was originally granted in March 2020. The applicant then obtained a zoning extension on February 15th, 2022 until March 13th, 2023. But that original zoning approval, we believe, in our understanding, is that that original relief that was granted on March 13th, 2020 should have actually been tolled by the state of emergency, which actually went into effect on March 10th, 2020, which was just a few days before we got the approval. And it was entered in at ISD. So it was a little bit of a, like, literally on the cusp of when that state of emergency went into effect. So with all that being said, we did get the initial 2-year period should have, we believe, run until June 15th, 2023, which was 6 months ago. However, to add a wrinkle to all this, we did get a zoning extension during that time period, which was granted in February 2022. So our understanding and belief is that that original zoning extension was actually misapplied, as it was granted during the 2-year tolling period due to COVID. So with all that being said, the extension technically should have been a 1-year extension from June 15th, 2023 until June 15th, 2024, as the project zoning decision in original relief because of the tolling would have been expiring on June 15th, 2023, and then you add the 1 year from the originally approved extension to June 15th, 2024. So, with all that being said, sorry to put everybody's brain in a twist first thing in the morning on this hearing. What we're asking for is confirmation that the existing expiration date is actually June 15th, 2024, which is what I just went through to try and explain. I'm happy to answer any questions, but in essence, we believe that we don't need an extra extension at this point. We're just looking for confirmation that the relief will expire on June 15th, 2024. Thank you.
Okay, and are you ready to proceed and complete by June 15th, 2024, or will you be back for another extension?
We may be back, Madam Chair. I mean, if the board would be so inclined, we would ask for an extension until June 15th, 2025 to be safe. You know, this is a hotel, it's on top of a hotel, so it is still part of the hospitality industry, which was, you know, impacted pretty significantly. My understanding is they do want to move forward with this. I don't know with what speed they will be moving forward, but yes, the plan is to eventually go forth with this project.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
First, a comment. Thank you, Mr. Zazula, for explaining that for sure. And I make a motion that the extension be granted until June 15, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stenbridge.
Yes.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal.
Yes.
Ms. Logue.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
At this point, we can return to case BOA 734-923 at 20, with the address of 24 to 44 Nealon Street, and ask if the applicant or the representative is present.
Still don't see a raised hand.
You don't? Okay. Okay.
Madam Chair, yeah, I'd recommend just to deny this this request, as they're not here.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to deny.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Stenbridge.
Yes.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes.
And I believe Ms. Wewell has joined us.
Yes, I am here, and I will vote yes.
Thank you. Ms. Mukahal.
Yes.
Ms. Logue.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. Motion carries. We are now a 6-member board.
Lost his place.
At this time, we'll move on to the recommendations from the subcommittee, also scheduled for 9:30. First, I'll read through the recommendations, note what the subcommittee decided, and then we will take a vote at the end. First, we have case BOA 153-0571 with the address of 665 Boylston Street. These along, and there was a companion case of that, which would be case BOA 153-0576 which also had the address, also with the address of 665 Boylston Street. The subcommittee voted to approve the case, both cases. Next, we have case BOA 1267356 with the address of 26 Spring Garden Street. The case was approved.
That's it.
Next, we go to case BOA 1524741 with the address of 6 Sunnybank Road. The case was approved. Next, we go to case BOA 1528266 with the address of 112 Temple Street. The case was approved. Next, we go on to case BOA 1516206 with the address of 41 Coolidge Road. The case was deferred to be decided by the full board, which will be later today. Then we have case BOA 1517797 with the address of 46 Linwood Street. The case was approved. Next, we have case BOA 1462924 with the address of 25 Burr Street. The applicant requested that the case be withdrawn, and that was approved. And that is the end of the recommendations from the subcommittee.
Thank you. Is there a motion? May I have a motion?
Motion to approve all the recommendations from the subcommittee.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wheelo?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. And just as a reminder, we are still a 6-member board.
Before we move into the hearing schedule for 9:30 a.m., I will ask if there are any requests for withdrawals or deferrals from this time frame.
261 Princeton Street, Mr. Stenbridge.
Bear with me, please. So that would be case BOA 1540041 with the address of 261 Princeton Street. Would you explain to the board, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano with the business address of 11 Beacon Street. Here on behalf of the applicant of 261 Princeton Street, we were prepared to move forward. We were notified yesterday by zoning board staff that the matter has to be re-advertised, so to ask for administrative deferral because the project has changed. So we would ask if the board, since we're done with community process, and this is just administrative, could give us a date sooner rather than later if possible.
Thank you.
Before we do that, may I read the companion case into the record that was involved with that, which would be case BOA 115400166 with the address also of 261 Princeton Street. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Sorry, Madam Chair, it's Javier. Jessica,
Yes.
does this one have a Spanish interpreter?
Yes, there should be an interpreter on.
Oh, there's an interpreter for the case right now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tracy Pichardo.
Hi. I'm here, Tim.
Okay, so should we have the interpreter interpret what just occurred? Javier?
Yes, have the translator translate for the abutter of what just occurred to request a deferral.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat for the interpreter what just was approved?
It was not approved, it was the applicant requesting a deferral, and then we'll continue after that.
Eso no fue aprobado, la aplicación era para una referencia, la cual vamos a continuar después.
Okay.
And Javier, do you have a date?
Yes, Madam Chair, January 9th would be, 2024 would be the next available date.
Okay. Do you want to interpret that?
Thank you. La próxima fecha de aprobación o que va a estar disponible, la próxima fecha es enero 9, 2024.
May I have a motion?
Moción.
Motion to defer these two cases until January 9th, 2024.
La moción para aplazar, la moción para aplazar en noviembre 9.
May I have a second?
Second.
Segunda.
Okay. Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Back to the interpreter.
La moción fue todo cargado por el equipo, Mrs. Valencia, Mrs. Sternberg, Mrs. Lambert y también la última señora, Mrs. McKay. Fueron todas las mociones cargadas con un sí.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's it for this case. Mr. Stenbridge?
Then we'll ask again if there are any requests for withdrawals or deferrals from the 9:30 a.m. hearing.
Apologies, we have one raised hand.
Okay.
Ms. Mija, I ask you to unmute.
That, I believe that was the,
Oh, is that a butter? It might be a butter,
yeah.
Then we can continue.
Hearing no further requests, we'll move on to first case of scheduled for 9:30, case BOA 1539718 with the address of 1270 Commonwealth Avenue. This is an Article 80 case. Would the applicant and or their representative please explain to the board?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to present our project this morning. My name is David Linhart with Coolston Stores. Business address at 400 Atlantic Ave. And I'm solely just setting up the sequence, and then I'll hand over to other members of the project team. I'm here with Matt McCollum from Hines, who will give a quick introduction. And the project architect, Rob Hagan from CBT, will walk through our slides. And then toward the end, I'll just briefly touch on the zoning relief, the requested zoning relief, before turning back to you. So Matt is up next. Thank you.
And thanks, Steve. And good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board for allowing us to present the project. I'm Matt McCollum here representing the development team composed of Hines and the Benenson Group. Rob will touch quickly on the process, but we've really been at this since 2019. Been a lot of process and community engagement, and we feel has resulted in significant changes to our design and a lot of impactful community benefits. We've worked extensively with governmental authorities, BPDA, DC, and the community to get to a point of a very well-designed project that will enhance this neighborhood, provide substantial community benefits. So again, thank you. Appreciate all your time. I'll hand it over to Rob to give a brief overview of the project and the design.
Thanks, Matt. Madam Chair, member of the board, thank you so much for your time. So if we move to the next slide, please. So as Matt started to allude to, we've had a very robust and very positive process with both the City of Boston, with the local abutters, the IAG, the Boston Civic Design Commission, And then are here, we think the project that really meets the needs of the neighborhood, the abutters, the community. And so we started the process back in 2019. We filed our letter of intent in March of 2022. A month later, we filed our PNF. We received Boston Civic Design Commission approval in June of 2023, and then were approved by the BPDA board in August of 2023, are now in front of you here in December. Next slide, please. Just to orient folks to where the project lives, there's an aerial photo that's the center of the page here. The site is highlighted in red. It's a 1.27 acre parcel. It is currently, if you see in the inset to the right, it's currently a single-story vacant retail building for a third of the site, and 2/3 of the site is surface parking. And so what we've proposed is a development that's approximately 190,000 square feet, predominantly multifamily residential with accompanying amenities. We also have approximately 2,100 square feet of neighborhood scale community retail space. And then the balance of the program is approximately 68 vehicle parking spaces, which works out to a 0.33 spaces per unit ratio to serve the uses on the site. And approximately 16 of those spaces may also be made available to abutting residential properties. Next slide, please. This is an aerial view of the proposed project, which knits itself very carefully into the surrounding context, meeting the street wall condition, creating a zero lot line effect with the rest of Commonwealth Avenue, and really scaled appropriately to sort of enhance the streetscape and really fit nicely into the site. You're viewing here from Commonwealth Avenue, on the right-hand side being Gorham Street. Next slide, please. Up at the top of this slide really is an elevation to show the building in context, showing it really kind of meeting the scale and the materiality of this part of Commonwealth Avenue, aligning with the street wall conditions, sort of setting back the development on the site, and really adding on three sides of the property a robust streetscape and an enhanced public realm. Approximately 5,000 square feet of our on-site areas being devoted to enhancing that streetscape. That's about 9 to 10% of the overall site area. And then down below, you see three perspectives that really show the ground level pedestrian experience along Commonwealth Avenue, Gorham Street, and Brainerd Road. And the goal really is to create an active streetscape that is safe and inviting for folks to be able to move through the neighborhood. Next slide. This is a ground level plan of the proposed development. You see to the left-hand side Commonwealth Avenue, where we've really located most of our active space, including our retail space and our residential main lobby, which is right on the corner of Commonwealth Avenue and Gorham Street. And as you round the corner onto Gorham, you see that we've really lined the ground level of Gorham Street and Brainerd Road with residential units to really keep in sort of consistency with what else is shown sort of throughout the neighborhood, and scaled it in a way to create a nice rhythm and a really excellent sort of robust pedestrian experience that's both safe and inviting to walk through the neighborhood. And then along Brainerd Road, you'll also see that we have an alley that's on our site, existing access point that will allow for residents with cars to be able to access the internal part of the site and keep that off of the rest of the streets. Next slide, please. And this is a view looking back from Brainerd Road toward Gorham Street to really illustrate the design of the building. It's brick masonry on all three sides to really tie in with the neighborhood materiality, and also to show that it really has been crafted to be scaled down to meet the scale of the neighboring buildings along our side of Brainerd Road, and to really create a more robust and inviting both views from the rest of the neighborhood, but also for the rest of the experience of walking down toward Commonwealth Avenue. Next slide, please. And we wanted to end by just offering a high level of some of the proposed community benefits that come with the proposed development. We've divided it really into 4 buckets. That's affordability and unit mix, open space and public realm improvements, sustainability, and then finally sensitivity to context. Within the affordability bucket, we're really proposing 70% on-site IDP units with a range of 50, 60, and 70% AMI. There's up to a $50,000 contribution to the Alston Brighton Homeowners Fund, and up to $250,000 is being proposed to fund solar projects on Commonwealth Avenue for the Alston Brighton Community Development Center. And then for the open space, we've dedicated, as I mentioned earlier, about 5,000 square feet of the site area within the site boundary for public realm. We've added an additional net 20 trees to the site and some public ground. We've upgraded all the sidewalks to complete street standards, and we're proposing a $300,000 contribution to the Parks Department. It's really dedicated toward Ringer Park, which is the closest park to the proposed development. And we have up to $25,000 of contribution from the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture to help advance the goals of the Alston Brighton Arts, Culture, and Placekeeping Report. And then finally, from a sustainability perspective, the proposed development has always been contemplated as very green and sustainable. And our targets are for LEED Gold and Passive House certification. We're also proposing an all-electric building to be in compliance with net zero carbon zoning, as well as health and wellness focus with potential Fitwell certification. We also have EV charging stations proposed for 25% of the spaces, with the capacity to raise that up to 100%. And then finally, responding to the context of this building is really the ground level units along Gorham Street and Brainerd Road with terraces to really kind of reflect the rest of the neighborhood. We've also committed to creating an urban infill building that really meets the street edge conditions, including a continuity of the street wall along Commonwealth Avenue, requiring the zero lot line setback, as well as sort of height and scale to step down with the neighboring buildings. And then we also increased the real estate tax contribution for the parcel, and we're proposing to work together with the building trades and carpenters to comply with the residence job policy. And I will pass it back off to David to follow up.
Thanks. So just very quickly before we hand it back, you can see, since we started some pushing and pulling of the project, happy with where we've come to. Of course, the Article 80 approval is a schematic design, so some finalization, EPA design review and whatnot. So the coordination that we've had with abutters and others will continue as we move toward a building permit plan set. But looking at the schematic design, the zoning relief that they're requesting as to the Con Ave Greenbelt Protection Overlay District, that's along the frontage of the project. That's one item of relief. The multifamily use is allowed on the upper floors to do it on the ground floor with accessory residential services. That's also, those are items of relief. FAR, height, side yard, and then the parking is actually set through Article 80, but that's also being confirmed as part of our zone relief. And thanks very much.
Thank you. Is the project manager from BPDA on?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm on.
Anything to add?
Yes, yeah. So we hosted 3 IAG, 3 public meetings on July 19, 2022, May 15, 2023, and July 26th of 2023. They're all well attended and advertised in local newspapers. The proponent also worked with city councilors and local elected officials to relieve concerns voiced in opposition letters by the community, and they are in a good standing with local elected officials on this project, and so we are in support of the project.
So just can I ask a couple of questions that came up from Alston Civic Association? I'm just wondering how they were addressed in the community process. They referenced mature trees that were being removed, as well as loading, doesn't sound like there are any moving or loading bays or spaces for parking.
I believe there is a loading.
Can someone address that? Yep, from the applicant, or you?
Yeah. Rob, can you slide back to that plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you see the loading is access from Gorham Street, and this is predominantly due to the required turning radius for vehicles to be able to access it. We've tucked it in almost at the corner of where Gorham Street meets Brainerd Road, bottom right corner of the page.
And then in terms of trees, the trees on site, primarily there's some invasive species, but we have added net trees of, Rob, you probably have the exact number.
20. We've added 20 net trees. I believe the trees being spoken of are invasive species, and they're sort of internal to the block.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the board? Hearing none, may we have public testimony?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Frank Mendoza, also Bright Liaison with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services here. As a part of the community engagement process, the Austin Civic Association and the Brighton Austin Improvement Association. The Austin Civic Association did send a letter earlier this morning to President Snow to specify as well that they are in opposition to the project. We also received major concerns from residents of Brainerd Road who were requesting RPP for the street, as well as the applicant requesting the same as well. Our office was CC'd on one comment letter sent to the BPDA detailing resident concerns from a direct abutter. The Brighton Austin Improvement Association zoning chair Annabella Gomes may also be on to testify as well. With that said, we'd like to defer to the judgment of the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other elected official offices? Okay. If not, I'll go to Minor and then Tony.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Madam Chair, members of the board, Minor representing the Carpenters Union. On behalf of hundreds of union carpenters that live and work across the city of Boston, I want to go on record support, and I will take a minute to thank the Mayor of Boston for allowing the community to be part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Tony Disadoro representing the Austin Civic Association. We would like to go on record, the ACA members overwhelmingly oppose this project. In addition to the points that Madam Chair just made, a couple of other concerns. There's absolutely no green space on this project. We talked about the trees. In terms of the context of the neighborhood and being on Commonwealth Avenue, the building is going to be, in terms of density and height, sort of out of character for that portion of Commonwealth Avenue. The project will be all rental, and as you know, in Austin, we are looking for more home ownership opportunities. Unfortunately, the proponent did not deliver on that. And finally, Madam Chair, given the numerous concessions that are being asked of this community in terms of height, density, and especially the lack of green space, the proponent was only able to commit to a 17% IDP rate. Normally, the community, in most cases, even across the city, might be a little bit more receptive to more IDP, more density and height if there's more IDP units, and yet all the concessions that are being made, the proponent was only able to commit to a 17% IDP rate. So we would like to go on record as overwhelmingly opposed to the project.
Thank you.
Elkin? Sending a request to unmute you. Your hand is raised. Okay. So, trying to request unmute him, Madam Chair, but I am not getting anything. Other than that, I have no additional raised hands.
Is the applicant, would the applicant like to address some of those issues? Is there an opportunity to meet folks partway in this?
Yeah, I have a couple comments on the green space.
Yeah, I could, Matt, if I could jump in. Also, just during the process, we really worked with counselors and tried to work with the community. Madam Chair, just like you said, to meet, find some place in the middle. Essentially, that's why the project is allocating $300,000 from the project as a community benefit to Ringer Park, because the project did recognize that it wasn't able to provide, enough open space on site, and so they want to provide a financial benefit to the closest park associated to the project. So recognizing that they'd be bringing more density to the area, and so hopefully to keep the green space in the park up to par while increasing that density in the area. And they also, speaking to the 17% affordability, the AMIs are significantly lower. They're at 50% to between 80% AMI, and usually we see projects coming in starting at 70% and going up to 100%. So they also lowered the AMIs as well to try to beat the community somewhere in the middle.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Yep.
Can I also add on the affordability? We have added a $50,000 contribution to the homeowners fund. And then I think even more importantly, we're contributing to Alston Brighton CDC to fund solar panels on their roofs and a neighboring property that's up to $250,000 additional dollars, which will help reduce utility expenses for the residents in that community.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Yes, for the developer, Madam Chair. Do you think there are any opportunities to increase the number of IDP units or make some of those units even more affordable for people below 50%?
I think we've, in mentioning some of these other items and contributions and dollar amounts, we've kind of maxed out in terms of just given where costs are and the financing environment, it's extremely difficult to go above 17%, which having these items that we can contribute to, neighboring communities and homeowners funds has kind of allowed us to even get to that 17% with these lower ranges of AMIs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll put forward a motion of approval. I think this is a good project. I like the levels of affordability provided, as well as the contributions nearby. So I'll put forward approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Panado has joined us. Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, members of the board.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 1472842 with the address of 370 Vermont Street. If the applicants and/or their representative present, will they explain the case of the board, please?
Good morning, Mr. Secretary. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Joe Hanley, McDermott, Quilty, Miller, and Hanley at 28 State Street in Boston. Would you like me to begin, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to introduce you to our team, and I'm actually just going to take you through the presentation in order to keep this brief and make sure we hit all the points and allow for discussion. I introduce myself. I am with Lucio Trabucco, who is the architect for the project. Also the owner, Louis Dacoyanis, who is from the neighborhood, grew up in the area, and owns the Baker Street Cleaners, which is across the street, and is obviously the owner of this property and the property to its right, which is relevant to the zoning as we get through the presentation. Next slide, please. So just take you to the existing conditions at the site a little further out. So 370 Baker Street is at the intersection. It's a corner lot at the intersection of Baker and Vermont. It is within a half a mile short walk to the West Roxbury commuter rail train station, which is at LaGrange Street. Next slide, please. So this just takes you a little closer up so you can see the existing conditions better. Again, in the red orangish hash is the site. It's a little under 10,000 square feet of land, and there are 2 curb cuts existing now, one on Baker, one on Vermont, and you'll see an existing single-story commercial building with a parking lot. Next slide, please. So there it is, right? You get a perspective of the existing building. Again, has this neighborhood market. There's a nail salon on the other corner of it, and Vermont Street is to your far intersection, taking a right there. Next slide, please. Looking up Baker Street, you'll see the building at the corner on the left. That's the nail salon. If you take that left, that's Vermont, and there's another curb cut on that side that you don't see yet. Next slide, please. There you are. So you can see commercial curb cut on Residential Street, which is Vermont, as well as the existing curb cut on Baker, and the single-story commercial building that would be replaced by this development. Next slide, please. So mentioned the site, and the uniqueness of this site and the proposal justify the relief that is granted. Specifically, the site is 9,940 square feet. Again, the 2 curb cuts that are there in the single-story building that will be replaced. We are improving the condition at the visibility of the corner, which is one of the areas of relief, from the existing building to what is being proposed for a new structure. Next slide, please. So this is just intended to show you where we've been. This is a project that started pre-pandemic, just before the pandemic. Originally, the proponent had a little more aggressive proposal to do a 5-story building that was going to be subject to small project review. It was then dropped to beneath 20,000 gross square feet. It's now 19,750 square feet, which is less than that threshold of 20,000 gross. We had dropped the story, we had reduced the density, and then we went out to talk to the neighborhood group, which is the West Roxbury Neighborhood Council. We had an abutters meeting and 2 meetings with them. The final result is a proposed 4-story building with 14 residential units, which will be home ownership, something that is desperately needed in the neighborhood and the city, 2 of which will be affordable because we were over the 10 mark. And we will have ground floor retail, which has been reduced in size to what's there now, to a space of about 1,186 square feet. So very small space, which will be for the retail market. 23 parking spaces, and we are sealing that curb cut on Vermont Street, which is an improvement to the residential in back of us, or the side of us. Next slide, please. So just to tell you about the relief, there is one notation here. We do not yet need relief for the side yard. We have communicated that with ISD, but it was in the interim period here. So should there be a motion that's entertained, we are not looking for side yard relief as we don't require it. What is required is a 12-foot setback because we abut 1F5000 subdistrict. And as you'll see in the plans, we are 12 feet off the side yard. We do require a minimum relief necessary for the building height, for the rear yard,
Minimum relief.
as well as for the alignment of the building at the front and the visibility at the corner, which I can talk to you about. So the building height is approximately 38 feet in a 35-foot zone. We are in a neighborhood shopping subdistrict, which it's important to point out allows the multifamily use and it allows the new retail market use. Very much in line with the BPDA's new corridors and streets initiative in a neighborhood shopping subdistrict. The rear yard requirement is 40, and as I showed you on the site plan, we are the abutting rear yard. My client owns the building that abuts the rear yard, so that mitigates the relief. In addition to that, that is where our parking is, and we have buffering and a certain amount of alleviation from where the building structure is, which you'll see in the plans. And the off-street loading. We do not have loading. We have, again, about 1,000 square feet of retail space, not intended to be destination retail. We do have accommodation for loading within and off the street in the parking area. We don't expect big box trucks for something like this. And then the conformity for the alignment with the visibility around the corner. As part of this process, we brought the building back 6 feet more from the intersection to improve the visibility. And again, it's an improved condition from what is there today. Next slide, please. So I took you through the site. It shows you the proposed ground floor. You'll see off Baker Street, the existing curb cut that we're utilizing to get into the parking garage, which again has 23 spaces. That is compliant with zoning. There's a lot of discussion about whether we have enough parking. We comply. 23 is required. It's 1.5 per residential unit and 2 for the retail. And that amounts to 23 spaces when you do the calculation. And then again, we're sealing that curb cut off Vermont Street, so our only access to the garage will be through Baker, which is the commercial section. Next slide, please. So we begin to take you up. You see the 1,186 square feet retail on the left. In the front, this is the, also supports the rear yard. The rear yard is to the right because we're a corner building. So we front on Vermont Street. Next slide, please. Start to show some of the buffering. This would obviously be subject to BPDA design review. We're very mindful of how we can improve and surround the circumstances. Next slide.
Everything but what they have to do. Mm-hmm.
Next slide, please. As we go up to the upper levels, so there are 3 levels of residential, which would be the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th floor, so you don't have to necessarily go through all of these. There are 12 2-bedroom units and 2 1-bedroom units, and that is replicated as you go up on each floor, and you'll see, Madam Ambassador, if you go down just a little bit, you'll see there are 4 2-bedroom units and 1 1-bedroom unit on each floor. I'm sorry, for 3 and 11. So next, if you keep going down, take you through, we are meeting the open space requirement. If you continue to go down, these are just, as I said, now I'll show you the perspective. So we were meeting the open space requirement, which is 50 per square feet per unit. We're in excess of that, and we're doing that by balconies as well as ground floor open space. What's important for the height is only 3 feet off what's required, but we also are not doing roof decks on the top. Next slide, please. And this is the view, sorry, from Baker Street, and you'll see the access to the parking garage. Next slide. This is the view from the rear yard that I told you about, which we need relief from. And again, my client owns the property that this is essentially looking from, and that rear yard setback is also mitigated by the buffering and the building being squared back towards Vermont, where the existing structure was. Next slide, please. Back, right. Side elevation, there you are. So this is the corner. You can see we have set back the retail on the ground floor, so there's improved visibility. And again, we've replaced that curb cut in the unimproved asphalt with buffering and landscaping for our abutter on the side on Vermont Street. And you can see the building in its context here, and also how the top level sets back from the podium, and that also improves the visibility at the corner. Next slide, please. Another perspective from that side. This is if you're going down Vermont Street, where the curb cut used to be, and I told you about the buffering, and again, compliant with that side yard requirement of 12 feet. Next slide, please. Aerial perspective from the rear side. You can see the parking underneath the building setback, and you have surface parking that is partially covered and buffered. Next slide. And I think this is it, Madam Chair. I do have the architect here who can answer any questions. This is a view from across Baker Street. The white massing block is the building that is owned by my client, which abuts in that rear yard. Again, we front on Vermont Street, and then our vehicular access here on Baker with the small retail at the corner. And with that, I'll hand it over back to the board.
Thank you. May I ask, is Mr. Hampton on from BPDA?
I am, hold on.
You are on, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you to comment on your recommendation, because it looks like it assumes that this is 20,000 square feet.
Well, the plans that we had originally seen, the front page of their plans actually said that it was a 20,000 square foot proposal. So I had contacted ISD about this, and they spoke with the plans examiner, and we were later informed that the revised plans that were going to be submitted to ISD came in under the Article 80 threshold. We didn't receive those plans in time to change our recommendation. So what you have in front of us for a recommendation of deferral based on what we had is what we are going to submit to the board today. So it is our understanding that they did come under the Article 80 threshold, but we didn't have enough time to do a review and change a vote. So.
Okay, thanks.
So can the proponent just clarify the square footage for the property?
Thank you. So, I mean, Article 80, the threshold is 20,000 gross square feet or more. As Mr. Hampton rightly indicated, this project has been around for a little while, and there have been several iterations. The most recent iteration, which you're seeing and is being presented today, shows and records the gross square footage of the proposed building at 19,750 gross square feet. That would, should we have the pleasure of being approved, that would be included in the decision and obviously in any permitting moving forward. And we did work as quickly as we could with ISD to make sure that these plans, which you see today, were reviewed. We also will have the opportunity, because not just would this be subject to further design review, but we're also doing 2 affordable units as a result of the 14 units. So we'll have more dialogue with the BPDA. And as I said, we're excited to deliver home ownership and compliant uses in a street and quarters in a neighborhood shopping district. And I think that's something that's consistent with the policy of the BPDA. So we look forward to continuing.
Thank you. Other questions from the board?
Madam Chair,
yes.
Mr. D'Amico from BTD had made a comment. I don't know if he's with us today or not.
Mr. D'Amico, are you on? Doesn't sound like it is.
The comment was that the applicant should consider a parking design, placing the spaces on a 60-degree angle. If the applicant could comment on that.
Lucio Trabucco, who's the architect, is on, but certainly that is something that, we can do in design review. Again, we're complying with, with the allotment of required parking spaces. We do have that flexibility, so we're happy to work through that.
Thank you.
Can you speak to the affordability area median income for those 2 affordable units that you're?
As you know, this is home ownership. So you're not seeing a lot of home ownership because of the current market. But what the current IDP requires is a unit at 80% and a unit at 100%, which sort of addresses the need for middle-class home ownership in a neighborhood that has had a strong middle class. And so we have 3 1-bedrooms and 11 2-bedrooms. So that would break down, would be 1 2-bedroom affordable and 1 1-bedroom affordable, which we'd be working through the BPDA process with, and it's a 50-year deed restriction, as I think you know. Thank you.
How many 3-bedrooms do you have?
No 3 bedrooms.
No, just 1s and 2s. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, mostly two.
And just to clarify, you're saying that one would be affordable at 80% and one at 120%?
That's the requirement, yep. And as you know, for home ownership, it's a little bit higher than the rental restriction, and they haven't.
Yeah, we're familiar with that.
Yep, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have a question, Madam Chair.
Yes,
So
please.
one of the concerns I saw was about visibility in the corner of Vermont and Baker. There is for what I know, there is a bus stop right there on Vermont in that corner. And so the question is there anything you can do to improve visibility on that corner? Can you make a cut on the corner, like a 45-degree cut to increase visibility for pedestrians and vehicles?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Valencia. I'm going to ask Lucio Trabucco, because this is one of the things that we heard in the community process. We had 2 meetings with the West Roxbury Neighborhood Council.
Yeah.
We turned to a second one with some improvements. So Lucio, do you want to speak to that?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, also, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, I wasn't sure you're going. Yes, we had, if you see the latest proposal, as we went to the Westbury Community Council, we did cut back that corner to allow more visibility at the bus stop. The bus stop is on the opposite side of this building. So we did cut it back by about 6 by 9, so that if you see on the rendering, it's basically on the left-hand side. That corner is basically, it's pretty much gone. So there'll be more visibility than there is actually now.
Yeah, there's been some question, you know. They don't emphasize that height difference at all.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, I have a question if Mr. Valencia is done with his questions.
Yes, thank you.
So I'm trying to reconcile the planting plan or what screening will be provided for this site. To me, the architectural plans indicate sort of a more ambitious plan than I think the survey has room for. Can we take a look at those two just to see just the way it's illustrated on the architectural site plan? It doesn't look like there's adequate room. So if you see here along the internal lot lines, you know, opposite Baker and Vermont, you know, you can see the building is kind of, it has a 12-foot setback, but that parking, excuse me, comes pretty close to the lot line in the opposite Baker, but it also, the parking is pretty much pushed up to the lot line opposite Vermont. And if you look at the, it's the retail floor plan, I think it's 2 slides down. The trees look pretty ambitious, for lack of better word. Can you talk about the screening plan for the parking in this building?
Yeah, Lucio, you want to take that?
Yeah, yes, that was, I agree with your comment, by the way, but that was proposed with, again, the owner of that 2-family on the right-hand side is the same owner as the developer of this property, basically. And one of the things that we discussed is to be able to use some of that area to also introduce some more screening and more, you know, introduce trees. That was the idea behind that.
You're talking
on the side we have plenty because it's 12 feet. 12 feet in the back, actually it's about 48 in the front, so we do have more room to do some planting on that, on the side setback.
So Ms. Weewell, so I understand the concern mostly for the rear yard, which would be along Baker Street, or is you know, that single row that we're looking at that goes up?
I think it's both, just with how far the pavement is pushed out.
Yeah.
I want to just make sure those plantings are successful and adequately screen the site and they've been accounted for. And what is shown here is what it will look like.
Yeah, so on the side where we are compliant, on the side yard, which would be the top at Vermont, you know, we do have that 12-foot setback, right, that allows for a good spatial difference for, you know, real grading and real depth to have adult trees, especially in place of where that asphalt curb cut and parking used to be, if you see in the upper left corner. As we get back towards the corner, obviously it gets a little tighter. So, what we're looking at is, especially those surface parking spaces, do we look at a different permeable material for them, apron, if you will, sort of, and then how we can then provide enough space to get mature tree growth, at least for a line there. And then we do have flexibility on that side because it's common ownership, right? There is some terra firma that, can be accommodated either by, by easement or just cooperation by virtue that they're owned together. So it is something that we're looking forward to having the opportunity to get some guidance from the BPDA and further work with buffering, and it is, a component and a required component here of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other
Madam
questions?
Chair, can any of the public speak?
We're not doing public testimony yet. Can you please wait?
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Jessica, we can now take public testimony.
Okay. Start with elected officials' offices.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Dan Hudson. I'm the West Roxbury liaison of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This project, 370 Vermont Street, we had our butters meeting August 15th. It was then moved to the West Roxbury Neighborhood Council for hearing on August 23rd. In both meetings, neighbors brought up concerns about height and traffic impacts on the neighborhood, in addition to maintenance. As a result of that, the West Roxbury Neighborhood Council opted not to vote and allowed the proponents to come back when they had a design that they felt met the concerns of the council and neighbors. They returned for the October meeting on October 24th with the revised design, as Joe stated. Additionally, returned with a shade study to address concerns from neighbors. That vote the result of that vote was a 3-3 tie on the neighborhood council. At this time, we defer to the judgment of the board.
Okay, Erin, and then, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Caitlin Stapleton from Councilor Murphy's office. The councilor would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, City Council Blackman, in support.
Okay, Erin, you're looking to give testimony here? Go ahead, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Sorry, we'll go to Minor. I'm not sure if you have any connectivity issues, Erin.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. Madam Chair, members of the board, Minor Perez representing the Carpenters Union, would like to go on record in support of this project.
Okay, and then Vincent? I sent a request to unmute you. Hi, Vincent, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, please proceed.
I'm a resident of West Roxbury. I live on Richwood Street, and I've attended the meetings and kind of followed the development of this corner. I would point out that when the developer asks for a variance of 3 feet, it's not really 3 feet, it's 10 feet, because if you stick to the 35-foot requirement of the zoning, you can't build a building of this height. You can only go 3 floors. So if you grant what they describe as a minimum 3 feet, you're not really giving 3 feet, you're giving much more than that. I would also point out that about 400 yards further down Baker Street towards Spring Street, there are 2 developments. One is addressed as 1208C VFW Parkway, and the other one is 1208B VFW Parkway. Both of these developments total about 115 housing units, and both of them back up onto Baker Street, opposite Catholic Memorial High School. And the proposal recently submitted and approved by BPDA for 1208B VFW Parkway, one of the conditions is that they will open an access from that site onto Baker Street. So you can expect quite an inflow of traffic. The other thing is they keep mentioning the commercial space at 1,100 feet. 1,100 feet is kind of a living room size. We've seen these projects before along Center Street at 1789 and 1721, where the same technique is used with a commercial space in the building of 908 square feet. So I went to the various meetings. I didn't hear any of the neighborhood people speak in favor. And I'm watching, because we have another project coming on Center Street that may try and slip under the same 3 feet variant that these people are looking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, do you want to try it? I know you said you was working with your audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. So my name is Erin Lurch. I'm at 366 Vermont Street, so I'm the direct abutter on Vermont Street. Since my home immediately, I'm speaking in opposition to the project as currently proposed. Since I do immediately abut the proposed development, there are several issues that uniquely concern me beyond those that are raised by my neighbors, even though I agree with many of those concerns as well. First, I have solar panels on my roof, which were quite expensive to install. At the community meeting on October 24th, the developer produced a self-funded study indicating that were he granted the requested 38-foot height variance, there would be no significant difference versus 35-foot. But what this same study showed is that even a 35-foot structure would result in as much as a 50% reduction in available sunlight to my panels during the brightest months of the year. So if construction starts next spring, I will still owe $23,418 for that solar installation, and no compensation has been offered to me to offset that 50% reduction in my solar panels' ability to generate electricity. So I'm very concerned about that, and I agree with the person before me whose name I missed because I was working with my audio, that it's more than just 3 feet, because if you were not to grant the 3 feet, it would result in a much lower building overall. I did have some concerns about the buffer between the property and mine. It looks like there has been some effort to address that. I would just ask that the board hold the developers to the letter of the buffering requirements between this property and mine. And then my understanding coming into this meeting was that the requirement is 2 parking spaces per residential unit. Maybe it's 1.5, maybe I misunderstood. But either way, honestly, this will inevitably result in the spillover of residents parking onto Vermont Street in front of my house and perhaps extending down the street and onto other side streets, as well as parking for that retail space. While it's not a destination retail space, there are people in that parking lot all the time, every day. There are folks who stop, the bus drivers stop to get snacks and drinks there. There are people in and out of that store all the time, and the parking for that store is going to spill over onto the surrounding streets. Currently, my street is pretty quiet despite that bus stop on the other side of the road, and there's no difficulty finding parking, so I'm concerned that if this project goes forward as granted, that's going to change. As you saw in slide 3 of the presentation, the neighborhood consists almost entirely of 1- and 2-story homes. So this is completely out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. It's going to be so much taller and more imposing than any other building in the neighborhood. I want to stress that I'm not objecting in principle to redevelopment at this site. I'm only asking that in considering the developer's proposal, the board ensure the existing character of the neighborhood is maintained and that I, as a adjacent homeowner, is not, that I don't face any undue burden. Thank you so much for providing me the opportunity to address the board.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, should I keep going with testimony?
How many more raised hands do you have? Well, let's go with at least, let's go with 2 more.
Okay, perfect. Andrew, can you state your name and address and briefly tell us if you're in support or opposition?
Yes, hi. My name is Andrew Porter. I live on Durant Street, which is the street that is directly across Baker Street from the proposed development. Lived here for over 40 years. What Erin just said reinforces a lot of what I was going to say. Yes, it's a residential retail space. There are 3 stores there: Baker Street Cleaners, hair salon, and the market. But it's 99% single-family homes, and this project development from the get-go has been too big for the neighborhood. So the term residential retail shopping area is a little bit misleading to me. It's really a residential area that happens to have a couple of stores in it, right? So I've been to the 3 meetings that we've had for the proposal. We've asked for the proposal to come down at least 1 story to make it a little bit more in character with the neighborhood. I'm not in opposition to development of the area. I just think the building is too big for the area. Erin also brought up parking. I'd like to reinforce that point too. Durant Street is a dead-end street. We have a lot of people using the street to turn around after using one of the retail stores. There's a lot of little kids on the street. Here there are 2 MBTA bus lines that I think you've heard described, Baker, Vermont, and a Watertown line that goes up Baker Street. Both, and that stop is very, very close to the development. There's also school buses that use Baker Street consistently, and we're really concerned about traffic safety and about parking. The development is taking away a surface lot that the Baker Street cleaners across the street, customers there use all day long, and also the Baker Street Market customers use. So when that surface lot goes away, there's no place for customers for the Baker Street cleaners or the hair salon or the Baker Street Market other than 2 spots to park. And so where are they going to park? They're going to park in the neighborhood, which is already pretty congested. So we're concerned about parking availability for this project as well. We just don't think there's enough parking spaces here.
Thank you. Can you wrap up and add any new points, please?
Can I wrap up?
Please.
Yeah, I'm happy to wrap up. I just like to represent what neighbors are saying.
Yes, we just want new information. For you to build on information we're hearing already. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, good. That's good then. If you've heard consistent information, that's good. Finally, there is some load. I'll just say there are some trucks that load on Baker Street and park on Baker Street for the market. It's a beer and soda trucks, and those are pretty big, so they're not small box trucks. So I'll end it there. Opposition.
Thank you.
Okay. Adrian? You looking to give testimony?
Yes. I live on Chesbrough Road, which intersects Baker Street. And I just want to say that I am very much opposed to this. I don't have anything new to bring into to offer, except for the fact that I've lived here for over 25 years. The traffic on Baker Street has become so congested that it could take me a half an hour to get from my street to Spring Street. And that's not even a quarter of a mile, I don't think. But also the architecture of the building is so out of keeping with what the architecture is in the area. And the fact that there will be so many more cars parking around, even down my street. I don't want to take any more time of the board, but I vehemently oppose this project.
Thank you. Mr. Hanley, you've heard a lot of feedback from the neighbors. Can you please briefly respond?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. First, I want to thank the neighbors. I believe you had some others maybe on in support too, but we went through a very extensive process here and greatly appreciate all the guidance that we received. Just in reverse order, there was a lot of concern about things that don't necessarily pertain to this case, meaning the size, it's too big. Now, we are FAR compliant. The density is not a zoning issue. We are open space compliant. That is not a zoning issue. Now, with respect to the height, at 38 feet in height, if you look at the context of the area, first of all, it's a mere 3 feet off from what zoning requires, but we are also a corner lot with an existing mixed-use condition. So obviously being at the corner justifies that, and we've set the building back at the top to further mitigate that mere 3 feet deviation. That 3 feet deviation also allows us to have an elevator, which to provide adequate home ownership for sale, both affordable and market rate. An elevated building makes a lot of sense. And you take a walk down Baker Street, directly across the corner, there was a building that's approved that's similar height. I think the gentleman who first commented talked about some of the larger rental buildings in the area that are mostly 4 stories or more. So, considering the need for housing, the appropriateness of the FAR compliance and the open space, we think that the height is reasonable and appropriate, both for the area but also for the site. And so just to speak to Ms. Lurch, who we look forward to continuing to work with, the property at 366 Vermont Street recently sold within the last year. And when it was on the market, I sent a letter, or the client sent a letter to the broker notifying them that we were in this process and asking him to notify anyone who might buy that property. And so, as Ms. Lurch indicated, she apparently is the new owner there. We did do a shadow study. We're not required to do that, but we did it to show that there was a negligible, basically no impact with respect to the height requirement. Now, the reason we looked at the deviation between 35 feet and 38 was because 35 is allowed and we are compliant. We don't need a setback variance on her side. So we looked at a 12-foot compliance of 35 versus 38, and there was no change. She is right that if you put a 35-foot building there, as allowed at 12 feet back, that it's a structure that has more than what is there today. But we tried to work as much as we could on that, and the study reveals no negligible at best impact from that. And I think just to dovetail on what the discussion with Ms. Wewell, what we would like to do is work very closely with Ms. Lurch, especially on how we buffer and do the landscaping along that compliant side yard with her property. And so I don't want to take more time, but I think that addresses most of it. I will say on parking, there was a note, if you look at the code, when you have 10 or more units, the parking requirement in the neighborhood shopping district in the West Roxbury district is 1.5. And again, you multiply that by 14, and then the requirement for the retail is 2 per 1,000. We have a little over 1,000, so you round it up, and that's the 23 spaces. So there was a lot of discussion, and I respect that about parking and traffic, but again, we're not asking for a parking variance, we're merely meeting that requirement. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. Other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
I will try a motion with some provisos. So I approval with 3 provisos, that there be 2 affordable units, one at 80%, a 2-bedroom, and a 1-bedroom at 120% of median income. A BPDA design review with special attention to the landscape plan, adequate screening and buffering and permeable pavement. And the third, that the gross square feet not exceed 19,750 square feet.
Okay, is there a second?
Excuse me, Madam Chair, for the affordable units, Board Member Jean, can we include that needs to be recorded through MOH?
Yes, an agreement with MOH to ensure that there be 2 units, one at 80%, 2-bedroom, one at 120, a 1-bedroom.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Stumbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue? Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you, members of the board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next case is case BOA 1537868 with the address of 6 Delmore Road. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain to the board?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I am Robert Nichols, real estate developer and builder. I was hired by the owner of this parcel to get this project approved and taken through the process here. Am I okay to present?
Yes, please proceed.
Excellent, excellent. So the project as proposed is a 3-story, 3-family with 3 townhouses. The lot is in a triangle shape, so it's a little peculiar as far as how we try to approach the lot. As you can see from the first slide here, we are up against the left lot line there all the way. In conversations with the abutters and the neighborhood groups, we actually pulled that in by 10 feet. So the final version was sent later to the plan reviewer, Mr. Nguyen at ISD, which we'll have updated. But we did pull that in by 10 feet and kind of shift the property over based on the feedback we received from the neighbor at 331 Hyde Park Ave. And I think it is important to note the same owner of 6 Delmore Road owns 335 Hyde Park Ave. So he's a direct abutter on the side there as well, but there's no abutter to our right, as that's where the train tracks run for the MBTA. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, this is located in the Hyde Park neighborhood. At the rear of the property, we have a park, and then to our left, there's just that one abutter, as I had mentioned. Next slide, please. As you can see from the design, we tried to make the property as functional as possible, by accommodating and fitting into this peculiarly shaped lot. Each unit, so 2 out of the 3 units have 2 parking spaces per the table for the JP neighborhood. It's 1 spot per unit, and so we were able to get 2 spots on 2 of the units, and then 1 spot on the unit at the far right at the property there. And then we have an adjacent office or family room on the first floor with a full bath in all 3 units there. Next slide, please. The second floor, as you saw on the last slide, was all open space living, dining, and kitchen. On the 3rd floor, we've got 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms on the 3rd level of all 3 of the units. Next slide, please. This just shows the exterior elevation and dimensions between each floor. Something that I think is important to note as far as the square footage of the lot, we've got about 4258 square feet, and each unit's approximately 2,000 square feet. We did shrink it down a bit from this version when we pulled in that lot line to accommodate the neighbor and adhere to the feedback from the neighborhood. Next slide, please. And just some more of the rear elevations here. Next slide. You'll see on this side of the property at the very last elevation, there isn't, on the Hyde Park Ave side, there aren't any windows. That was to accommodate the privacy concerns of the neighbor at 331 Hyde Park Ave. That was one of the things she was really adamant about. She didn't want the residents kind of looking into her yard and feeling like, she was on public display there. She does have some nice green space back there she uses. And something else that we agreed to was to also landscape the space in between the properties with some trees and some landscaping, to be finalized as we go through the BPDA process if we're able to get this moved forward here. Next slide, please. You can skip this slide. And we can go down to the refusal letter from ISD just to kind of go through what the variance requests are, if that's attached there. Yeah, I don't believe it was attached, so we just, I can go through it, though I have it here. Let me just pull it up on my end. Let's see here. Still more, here we go. So in going through the zoning refusal, we had the lot area was insufficient. We had excessive FAR. Usable open space was insufficient. The front yard setback was insufficient. The side yard setback is insufficient. We did pull it in on one side to bring it into compliance. The rear yard setback is insufficient. And then the last item, which I was questioning with the plan review, but I didn't get clarity on this. He said off-street parking was insufficient. However, we do have enough off-street parking there to accommodate what is required. And a couple of things I think are important to mention. We did go through the community process. We had 2 abutters meetings. And then we met with the Jamaica Plain Neighborhood Zoning Committee, Neighborhood Council, excuse me, and the Zoning Committee. And we did get a letter of support from them. We got a letter of support from the 331 Hyde Park Ave abutter, and we didn't have any opposition as we finalized our process in presenting this project to the community.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Conrad Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. My apologies, Madam Chair, I don't have a lot of background information on the abutters process due to personnel changes, but can confirm what the applicant said, that the JPNC voted to support this proposal. With that, we'll defer to the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no additional raised hands demanded.
Okay. With that, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to put forward a motion for approval with the PDA review, special attention to improving the landscape plan.
May I have a second?
I'll second, but can I add another proviso that they maintain that 10-foot setback from the neighbor? You know, we don't have those plans in front of us. So I just want to make sure what was presented is reflected.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, the motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next we have case BOA 1515218 with the address of 26 Rowena Street. With the applicants and or the representative to explain.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary. This is James Christopher of 686 Architects here on behalf of the applicant.
Are you done, Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Okay. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is James Christopher of 686 Architects with the business address of 1156 Dorchester Ave. I'm here today on behalf of Luke Marinacci and Sarah Baker, the owners of 26 Rowena Street. The proposal before you is to create a new curb cut on Bushnell Street to create 2 off-street parking spaces. The violation is off-street parking located in the front yard. This parking is not located in the front yard. It is to the rear third of the building. The curb cut would allow for the off-street parking of 2 vehicles, which would primarily serve 24-hour traveling nurses, which attend to Sarah's mother lives in an ADU unit in the basement. She has some chronic medical care issues, and that's the precipice of this project. We laid out the property so that the parking and paving was very minimal and that we were able to maintain the rear yard outdoor space, which the owners use and which the healthcare workers who reviewed this property for Sarah's family agreed should be maintained. So that's it. It's a 25-foot curb cut, 1 full-size and 1 compact vehicle. We held an abutters meeting. A few abutters attended. There was no opposition. We went to the Ashmont Adams Civic Group. The project was well received. I did not receive notification of a vote one way or the other. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Ross Cochran with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. At this time, we'd like to defer to the judgment of this board and some background on this proposal. We had an abutters meeting in September of this year. At that abutters meeting, there was 3 people that were in support of this project, 0 opposed, and I have no letter of support or opposition from the Civic Association on file. At this time, we'd like to defer the judgment of this board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I have no additional raised hands. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other questions from the board, may I have a motion?
I will put forward a motion of approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, the motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Next, we have case BOA 1530337 with the address of 148 Lexington Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain to the board?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Stembridge. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano with the business address of 11 Beacon Street, here on behalf of the applicants Garrett Hogan and Max Taylor from On Point. The project, and this is a good rendering to see, the project proposes to confirm the occupancy as a 3-unit building, which it has been used for. From everything we can see, it's assessed as a 3, had been laid out as a 3. There was just no CO of record as a 3 or any other CO. And then it's to construct a 3rd-story rear addition only with rear decks and an exclusive roof deck on top, accessed via a hatch. This will also include a full renovation both to the interior, but also a historic renovation to the exterior of the building, which, as you can see from the rendering and looking at the existing site pictures, definitely needs it. There's all vinyl siding. And we worked extensively with the Eagle Hill Civic Association on the historic renovation of the building and took their comments. Just to go over the layout and floor plan of the building, and if we actually go to the next slide, Madam Ambassador, it'll just show a rear view. If we go to one more slide. Yeah, this is a good picture. So as you can see, there's already up and down on that street a number of rear additions. The yellow arrow indicates our building, and you can see there already exists a 2-level addition in the rear, or the building already goes back that far. We're proposing just to infill that back, which would give the unit a little bit of extra space. These are going to be condominium units proposed. It would give it a little over 400 square feet, making the units sort of match. So right now, the proposed units would all be 2 bedrooms, 1,026 square foot in unit 1, which is existing, 1,048 in unit 2, 2-bedroom, which is existing, and then the 3rd floor. So right now it's 665 square feet, so it's tight, and this would allow it to be a 2-bedroom at 1,028 square feet, and this unit would have the roof deck, which we pulled back 11 feet 2 inches set back from the front of the building, so it's not really visible from the sidewalk. It would be in the center, and as I had mentioned, it's 155 square feet, and it's accessed only by hatch. We're also proposing to add 3 rear decks on back, which are open-air decks. And just to go over the violations that were mentioned. So the FAR in the current building is 1.4. With the addition, we're slightly going up, but we're proposed at 1.6. The rear yard as it exists now is 37 feet 7 inches. And because of those decks that are 7 foot 7 inches in the back, that would bring the rear setback. We'd still be maintaining 30, but 40 would be required. But the building already has the addition on the 1st and 2nd floor. We're well over the usable open space, and we are not able, because we are keeping the building, to create any parking, but we're a short distance to the Blue Line, to Airport and Wood Island Station. And so with that, I can pause and answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Drago. Are there questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Manuela Villagomez with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. ONS hosted an abutters meeting for the project on September 26th of 2023. No abutters were present on the call. The applicant met with the Eagle Hill Neighborhood Association in September and October of 2023, and the group voted to support the project with a unanimous vote of 17 in favor. At this time, our office would like to defer judgment to the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Sebastian Parra from Councilor Palet's office. As Mel said, in the committee, we're in support of this project and barely any opposition. And for that reason, the council would like to go in support of the project as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to Larry and then Max.
Hi, so my question on this project is the footprint in the yard staying the same? I'm the next door neighbor, so is the footprint in the yard the exact same?
Are you speaking in support or opposition, or do you just have that question? Well, up to you, Mr. Drago, if you want to respond.
I'd be happy to respond. So the building footprint is staying the same. We're just infilling to the existing line in the rear. The only change would be open-aired decks in the back. So those decks would go out about 7 feet. So the rear setback with just the open-air decks would go down by about 7 feet, but there would be no building massing change.
Thank you. Any other raised hands?
No.
Okay. With no other questions from the board, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve with BBVA design review.
May I have a second? Mr. Stembridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mugahal?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Next, we have 2 companion cases. First being case BOA 1466913 with the address of 38 Lexington Street. Along with that, we have BOA 1466908 with the same address of 38 Lexington Street. Is the applicant and/or their representative present to explain?
Yes, present.
Please
May
proceed.
I proceed? Great.
Yes.
My name is Ian Roundtree. My wife and I are the owners of 38 Lexington Street, Unit 4, and our proposal is to add an exclusive use roof deck to the top of the building. The plans are provided here. You can just see where the building sits between Meridian Street and Marion Street on Lexington Street, and the dark gray is the profile of our roof. We can go to the next page. Here is just looking at top view of the lot and the proposed roof deck area, which would be exclusive to our unit. You can go to the next view. These are interior plans. There will be no interior work done on any unit in the building, which is 4 units, but we can keep going. Next page, I believe, shows the profile of the proposed roof deck, which would be space that's used both for a private garden area as well as just to enjoy outdoor space. This page that we're looking at is the profile of the proposal. Top left is the front of the building, where you can see that the roof deck would be added with just some fencing. The right side shows how the roof deck would be accessed, which would be via the rear staircase. And so in this box, we would add a level to the staircase, and we would also put a door that would restrict access to the roof. It would be open from above, closed from below. That way it would be a private roof deck space. And then the right side bottom, you can just see the profile again. I would call attention to where the roof deck extends, which is right around sort of the middle of that window area, because that came up during our community process about whether or not you'd be able to see it from the street. And I think we concluded that it would have very minimal impact in view from the street. So we can go on to the next page. Here are just sort of common plans, again, about what the roof deck structure would be, but again, no work would be done on the interior. I think we can go to the end if there's any more views of the deck. This is the current plans as compared to the proposed plans, so it really would just be an addition onto the rear staircase, and then the addition of the fencing on top of the roof, as well as the door to make it a private roof deck. So the variances that we're seeking were two zoning variances. One is alteration of roof structure. Another is a side yard insufficient variance, though the side yard dimensions aren't changing. And then the building variance that we're seeking, I believe that we mitigated by adding a door that is closed from the bottom and open from the top to create a private roof deck with one route of egress. With that, I'm happy to try and answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board?
Can we get Mr. Hampton to talk about the BPDA's recommendation?
Thank you, Ms. Panado. Jeff Hampton, BPDA. We're not opposed so much to the roof deck. It's the size of the roof deck and the access via the stairs. I think if the board were to approve the roof deck, we would ask for substantial design review to minimize the size of the roof deck. And even though you can't see it from the side, this building is taller than the abutting building, so you would be able to see what they have proposed now from the side. So we would just ask for design review if the board were to approve it, but we were opposed to the size of the deck. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? With that, may I have public testimony?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Olivia Gomez with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. ONS hosted an abutters meeting for this project on September 20th of 2023. No abutters were present on the call. The applicant then met with the Eagle Hill Neighborhood Association, and the group voted in favor of the roof deck with 14 in favor and 3 against the project. At this time, our office would like to defer judgment to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other raised hands?
No, Madam Chair, I have no additional raised hands.
Okay. If there are no other questions from the board, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with BPDA design review with special attention to both the size of the roof deck and the position of the rear stairs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you. Before we move to the next case is deferred. So before we go any further, we will ask at this point if there are any requests for withdrawals or deferrals from the 11 o'clock hour.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is Attorney Barry on behalf of 820 Hyde Park Ave, ERT 1456052.
What's the name?
It's 820 Hyde Park Ave. It should
That's
be the second
actually,
hearing.
that's an 11:30.
That's
That's an 11:30. We're asking about 11 o'clock deferral.
Apologize.
No problem.
That's okay. So with that, we will then move into the 11 o'clock hearings. And the first will be case BOA 1527826 with the address of 30 Mildred Avenue. Is the applicant and/or their representative present to explain to the board?
Yes, I am, Mr. Secretary. Good morning, Attorney Matt Eckel from Fletcher Tilton with the business address of 1 Franklin Street. These are companion cases. Apologies, I'm not sure if you noted the second one is 30 and 34 Mildred, just for the record.
Then bear with me, please. Thank you for pointing that out. That will also be case BOA 1540077 with the address of 34 Mildred Avenue. Proceed, please.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Once again, Matt Eckel from Fletcher Tilton with the business address of 100 Franklin Street. Also joining me this morning are Dwayne Boyce and Adler Bernardin from Norfolk Design and Construction, the project proponents. Chris Drew from 686 Architects, the project architect. Peter Bound from the trustees of reservations, and Stephanie Silver from the Mayor's Office of Housing. As I mentioned, these are companion cases, so we're seeking to erect a new residential building with 6 affordable home ownership units and 4 parking spaces as one of the applications. This will create 3 affordable units at 80% AMI and 3 affordable units at 100% AMI. Our second application is we are seeking to create a community garden at the adjacent lot. Currently, this site contains 4 vacant lots. We're proposing to combine 2 of the lots to be known as 30 Mildred, and that will house the residential units, and combine the remaining 2 units to be known as 34 Mildred, which will contain the community garden. Both of these lots, when combined, will contain just over 7,000 square feet. You can see here a picture of the existing conditions there on your bottom left. That's a diagonal picture looking down Mildred Ave. You can see the little white fence in front of the 4 vacant parcels. The triple decker immediately to our left is representative of most of the residential housing along the street. Most of those lots are about 3,500 square feet and contain existing 3-family structures. We are right across the street from the Mildred Ave K through 8 school. As you can see there on the bottom right visual, you can see highlighted in red our 4 subject lots and the school across the street. In terms of the residential building, again, it's a total of 6 units. 3 would be 2-bedroom units and 3 would be 3-bedroom units. We're proposing 2 units per floor. Unit 1 and 2 will both be accessible. We are proposing a ramp, as you can kind of see there, just in the top left of the screen, going from right to left along the parcel to make those units accessible, and we'll also have stairs right in the front, as you can see. The units will range in size between 860 and 1,020 square feet, and each will have a dedicated rear deck for private usable open space. As we move through the plans, the community garden itself, we're finalizing details on the exact design. However, it will be proposed to have a small tool shed, numerous garden beds, and water access to care for the garden and plantings. In terms of the violations for 30 Mildred, which once again is the residential building, it is a 3-family zone. We're proposing 6 units, so multifamily residential. However, as mentioned, the 7,000 square foot lot is very similar in density to the 3-unit building surrounding us on about half that lot size. To go along with that, we are proposing a 0.93 floor area ratio when 0.8 is allowed. Usable open space, you're required to have 600 square feet per dwelling unit. We are proposing 3,212 total square feet, so we're a little bit short of the 3,600 required. The front yard requirement is 10 feet. We are proposing 5. And the rear yard, with the shallow lot exception, we're required a 24-foot rear yard setback. We're proposing between an 11.5 and 15.5 rear yard. The community garden itself did get cited as a forbidden use. It is important, I think, to note it's not forbidden because it was contemplated within the code as being not allowed. It was forbidden because it's not listed at all. The community garden use is not listed in the code, and when that occurs, it automatically becomes forbidden. Just for the record, we did go through an extensive community process, both in regards to the RFP when it issued, as well as through this zoning process. We were able to obtain and submit letters of support from the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council, as well as City Councilors Arroyo and Worrell for this project. At this point, I will pause and happily take any questions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Eckel. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. As you heard from the applicant's representation, ONS conducted a butters meeting held on November 2nd. The applicant then went on to meet with the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council, which was in support of this proposal. So far, we have 0 letters of opposition. With that, we'll defer to the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Jordan here from Councilor Ricardo Arroyo's office. I want to speak in support of the project. Apologies if I spoke before someone, but yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're fine, yep. Thanks, Teresa.
Mayor's Office of Housing.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Stephanie Silva, and I am a development officer with the Mayor's Office of Housing. We support this project and have been working with the team since their designation as developer of the city-owned parcels earlier this year. The team was designated based on a response to an RFP released by MOH requesting the development of this site for affordable housing and an adjacent community garden. And we will continue to work with the team as they continue progress towards construction and conveyance of these projects.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, City Council-elect Michael Flaherty, Councilor Reckons for that.
And Madam Chair, I have no raised hands.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, I'm sorry,
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Teresa Strachilla. I'm Program Manager for the City of Boston's Grow Boston Office of Urban Agriculture, part of the Mayor's Office of Housing. Grow Boston supports the project and has been working with the team since their designation as developer of these city-owned parcels earlier this year. After a community process that resulted in strong support for a community garden at this site, MOH released an RFP for the development of affordable housing and a community garden and selected this development team. We will continue to work with the team as they progress towards conveyance of these parcels and construction of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Stembridge.
Yes.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes.
Ms. Wewell.
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal.
Yes.
Ms. Panado.
Yes.
Ms. Logue.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board.
At this point now, we'll jump ahead to the rediscussion scheduled for 11:30 and ask if there are any requests for withdrawals of deferral.
Yes, 169 Maverick Street.
The last case, Mrs. Stembridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that would be case BOA 1475953, with the address of 169 Maverick Street. Would you explain your request to the board, please?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney Lorraine Scatino from Richard Lindsay's office. I'm with an address of 245 Sumner Street. We're just requesting a short deferral on this. We may have the building code issue worked out. We're just waiting on the final inspection.
Madam Chair, deferral day, I would suggest February 6th, 2024.
Okay, does that work for the applicant?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion?
Motion to defer until February 6, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stembridge.
Yes.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes.
Ms. Wewell.
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal.
Yes.
Ms. Panado.
Yes.
Ms. Logue.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Stembridge, 10 Thompson Square, please.
And that would be case BOA 1304433, with the address of 10 Thompson Square.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. I'm sorry, Mr. Stembridge.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is George Moranci. I'm an attorney with the business address of 350 West Broadway in South Boston. Madam Chair, several weeks ago when I requested this deferral, I was at the time looking for a date in February of 2024. If you recall, the calendar had not been set, so I said that I would be requesting an additional deferral today. So I would like to request, if possible, a deferral to February 6th in this matter to allow for continued community process.
Javier.
Yes, Madam Chair, that's available.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion?
Motion to defer to February 6, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stembridge.
Yes.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes.
Ms. Wewell.
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal. Yes. Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. See you then.
Thank you.
820 Hyde Park Ave, please.
That would be case BOA 1473941 with the address of 820 Hyde Park Avenue. Go ahead and explain, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney John Barry on behalf of the owners here with an office address of 1154, 1156 Dorchester Ave. There was a slight revision to this project, lowering units and adding parking that was provided to ISD roughly 2 weeks ago. I noticed the set that was stamped was actually the original set that was filed and not the revision set. That said, I believe the board has the wrong set in front of them that was reviewed for today's hearing. And I think this needs to be clarified in order so that we can intelligently move forward with the proposal. I think the board has the old set in front of them. That's what was stamped.
Okay. Javier?
Madam Chair, February 6, 2024.
Mr. Barry?
That's perfect.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion?
Motion to defer to February 6, 2024.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stembridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. Motion carries. See you then.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Now, if there are no more requests, then we will return to the hearing scheduled for 11 a.m. We have two companion cases. The first being case BOA 1415566 with the address of 22 Torrey Street. Along with that, we have case BOA 1415562 with the address of 26 Torrey Street. Is the applicant present to explain?
Yes, Mr. Secretary. Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Ryan Spitz with Adams and Moranci, business address of 168 8th Street, first floor, South Boston. Joining me today is the owner, Anastasio Baptista, as well as James Christopher from 686 Architects. This is a proposal to subdivide the lot.
Madam Chair, I apologize, Attorney Spitz. I was just notified this has to be deferred because of an updated refusal letter.
So we do have the updated refusal letter that was provided to us on November 22nd, 2023. So if the plans in front of you are not accurate, because I did notice that the advertisement here is for the 7 units, the revised plans, which we were sent over, revised refusal letters for both parcels on November 22nd reflect 5 units. So if that is not what the board has in front of them today, then we would have to defer. If the board does have the proposal in front of them for the 5 units, we would like to move forward with the hearing.
Yeah, I was notified by staff that they do not have it, so that we'll need to do a deferral for this one.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have a date for Mr. Spitz?
We can do January 23rd for this one. And that'll be the last January hearing date for deferral.
Mr. Spitz, does that work?
We'll make it work. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience. With that, may I have a motion?
Motion to defer to January 23rd, 2024.
Second. Thank you. Mr. Stembridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. See you then.
Great, thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 1525904 with the address of 21 Woodworth Street. Is the applicant and/or their representative present to explain to the board?
Hi, can you raise your hand if you're on for this proposal? Don't see any raised hands. Oh, yep, one, Deb Keller, you're unmuted. Steve Guard.
Yes, Jessica, thank you.
Let me make you a panelist, 1 second.
Thank you.
And you'll just have to unmute yourself again once you become a panelist, thanks. You're on mute.
Thank you, everyone. Let me know when I can proceed.
Yes, please proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I am Attorney Steve Guard, Guard Law LLC at 1165 Washington Street in Hanover, Massachusetts. I am the attorney for the applicant as well as one of the principals in the project. With me today is Ben Berger, my partner as principal in the project, as well as Deb Keller from Merrill Engineering, our civil engineer, architects Gavin Driscoll and his colleague Carlos from White House Architects and Design, as well as attorney Jack Hart from Nelson Mullins, who has helped us negotiate this process with the MBTA. Before you is a project located at 21 Woodworth Street in the 2F5000 section of the Dorchester neighborhood, where a 3-story, 6-unit building with 10 parking spaces was previously approved by the board in 2018. Since that time, the applicant at that point was unable to achieve materialization of the project due to its inability to work things out with the MBTA as well as the COVID pandemic. So we have now taken over the project and acquired the property and proposed to you today to construct a building of nearly the same dimensions as previously approved, but with 9 units and 9 parking spaces with amenities for alternate transportation, such as bike racks and bike storage. The applicant is seeking requested relief from Article 65, Section 41 for off-street parking. It's deficient by 1.4 spaces. Section 8, 2-family is allowed. Obviously, 9 dwelling units are proposed. Section 9, dimensional setbacks for rear, front, and side yards are not met. The floor area ratio proposed is 1.6. The building height, although it's identified in the zoning code refusal letter as being deficient, we measure it by the average street grade at 32 feet, while 35 is allowed. Nonetheless, I'll mention that issue as we move on. Building height stories is 2.5 is allowed, and what we have proposed is 3. So the reason that this proposal was more well received by the Neighborhood Civic Association for Port Norfolk was because the 6-unit development that was originally proposed in 2018 and approved was for 3-bedroom units. The 9 units, obviously if we stay within the same footprint, had to be made smaller. So the 9 units are smaller and they're all 2-bedroom, 1-bath units, which would less likely to have overcrowding as far as, multiple vehicles, et cetera, for the project. On October 18th, a virtual neighborhood meeting was done and duly advertised and noticed, and there was no opposition to the applicant's proposal. On the 21st of November, a meeting was held at the Port Norfolk Civic Association where in excess of 20 people were in attendance. The proposal was well received and resulted in modifications to the exterior facade of the building with an additional mansard at the request of the members who unanimously supported the applicant's proposal as modified. John has sent in a letter to you folks indicating that there was unanimous approval. The modified plans have been reviewed by ISD and are the ones in your materials today. The picture that you're looking at right now, you can see the greater architectural articulation and detail on the 3rd floor to allow for the building to look a little bit more in tune with the neighborhood, where it is on a corner believed to be by the Port Norfolk Civic Association as kind of one of the entrances to the neighborhood. So with respect to the zoning relief for the project would allow for the effective use of the land, which is exceptionally narrow and shallow. The lot contains exceptional topographical conditions created over time as well by the construction of the adjacent railroad and the bridge justifying the within requested relief. The lot is also burdened by an access easement in favor of the railroad, the location of which is a factor in how we had to site the building. If you look at the drive
The driveway slide, if you go back to, so what we've done is we shifted the building over towards Redfield Street, relocating the easement, which was diagonally across the center of the lot, to the right-hand side where the driveway is. So now the MBTA will have an access easement that is paved and maintained by the owners of the property, as well as a small parking space down by the gate, or I should say, vehicle stopping space down by the gate for the MBTA benefit. Also, it should be noted that deliveries will be allowed to enter the driveway as well. There will be a sufficient room to turn around and for delivery trucks to leave, thus mitigating any kind of on-street parking on Woodworth Street in order to make deliveries. So the work on the site, because of its unique shape, topography, and location, will require unique construction modalities such as sheet piling, reinforced concrete, and specialized materials to mitigate the vibration and noise from the train. The height, while taken from the mean average grade, as I mentioned earlier, does not appear to be out of compliance. Nonetheless, the relief, we would request the relief consistent with the zoning code refusal letter because the height is adjacent to the bridge, which is obviously at a pretty significant elevation for visibility, light, and air, as well as the proposed landscaping areas in keeping with the residential streetscape. That having been said, I do have with me the civil engineer and the architects if the board has any specific questions about the plans.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Ross Cochran with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. The applicant has completed their community process at this time. Our office held an abutters meeting on October 18th of this year where no abutters were in attendance. As far as the Civic Association goes, I don't have anything on my file as far as a letter of support or opposition, but the ZBA might, but I'm just saying I don't have one on my file. But at this time, we defer to the judgment of this board. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Joe Begavkin, City Councilor. Frank Baker's office would like to go on record in support.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have no raised hands.
Okay. There are no other questions from the board. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll put forward a motion of approval with provisos that plans with BPDA design review with attention to pedestrian accessibility, and that the MBTA confirms compliance with TOD policies and guidelines, and that the relocated MBTA easement is approved.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. McGaha?
Yes.
Ms. Panato?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. The motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Next, we have case BOA 1518540 with the address of 9 Elton Street. The applicant and representative present, would you please explain the case to the board?
Hi, Owen, is that you?
Yes, it is. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this is Owen Thomas here, Owen Thomas Architects, here to present for the owners. What we're proposing today is a rear deck inset into the existing roof line of this single-family home. As you can see on the picture on the upper right there, there's a kind of a large angled roof line. And then on the lower left is the existing rear bay. We're proposing to put a new deck aligned with the footprint of the existing rear bay, so there's no change in building footprint. And the deck is inset into the roof. If you can scroll down to the next sheet. So the dark gray area shows the area of the new roof deck. Again, this is the exterior profile is aligned with the existing footprint of the rear bay. So we're not increasing the rear setback at all. You can continue down. These are just the lower level plans. There's no changes to the lower level at all. And so this is the third floor that shows the new deck on the right. That's the rear that we are building over the existing rear bay, and we're also reconfiguring the third floor to include a bedroom and a new bathroom, but no other exterior changes outside of the deck.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Are there questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Ross Cochran, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. The applicant has completed their community process at this time. Our office held a butters meeting on October 12th of this year, where there was, I believe, 3 or 4 butters that attended that were in support of this project. The Civic Association has submitted a letter that is on file. The Planning Committee and the General Membership both support this project. At this time, we'd like to defer to this board's judgment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Joe McEachran, City Council, Frank Baker's office would like to go on record in support.
Thank you.
Hey, Madam Chair, I have no raised hands.
With that, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Wickhall?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Next, we have case BOA 1521230 with the address of 14 Emerson Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain?
Yes, there's a raised hand here. Okay. Scott, I'm going to make you a panelist. Once you are a panelist, please unmute yourself. We can't hear you if you're speaking.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for your time. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm Scott Baranowski here with my wife Pamela, and we are the applicants.
Great, please proceed.
Yep, so I can actually walk us through a little bit, but I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention before we get started. There was an error. It looks like under the purpose, it does mention that we're adding a roof deck. We're actually not adding a roof deck. This is actually taking place, the addition that we're looking to do is taking place on our roof deck. We're pretty much taking away about 400 square feet of our current roof deck. So just to kind of set that standard before we move forward. So yeah, you can see our property here if you want to keep scrolling. So there's our house right there on the left, the blue single family. We can keep going. So the next few pages are just going to be our interior space now. Oops, sorry, not that page. Yeah. No, keep going. Where do I have to? Yeah, keep going. I think I'm on page 4 here. Okay, those aren't the plans that I submitted. Where are we here? Go back. Okay, so yeah, if you want to go back to where the head house is, sorry, page, keep going. Yeah, right there, I can talk to that one, that's fine. So yeah, scroll down one more. It was where it said the head house.
The other way?
Yeah, sorry, the other way.
Yeah,
right, yes. So where it says head house, that's currently our space now, and the entire space, other than that head house, is a giant roof deck. And what we're looking to do is kind of add that open living space to the right there, with a little hallway to get from the head house to that open living space. And then we will continue to use the part of our roof as a roof deck.
So you'd be enclosing the part that's on the right. That's currently part of the roof deck. Okay.
Correct. It's currently a roof deck, and we're enclosing it. Correct.
Okay. Any other slides you want to walk us through, or is that?
I don't think so. Yeah, all the rest of the space is not being touched, so.
Okay, awesome. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. Our office is unaware of any letters of support or in opposition. The applicant went to meet with the Gate of Heaven Neighborhood Association, which expressed that they had no issues or concerns with this proposal. With that, we'll defer to the board. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Ana Calderon from Council President Flynn's office. The council would like to go on record in support based on a good community process with the neighbors and positive feedback at the abutters meeting. Moreover, that this additional space is not a new roof deck and the additional enclosed living space will accommodate a growing family in the community. Thank you.
Members of the board, Paul Sullivan, for City Council, Laz Michael Flaherty, echoing the sentiments of Council President Flynn's office, as well as acknowledging the communal effort that went into drafting Article 68. Council does feel that this is a good project that does warrant merit. Therefore, I'd like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, I have no additional raised hands.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion for approval with the PDDA review.
Is there a second? Mr. Stenbridge?
Yeah.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
The chair also votes yes. Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have case BOA.
Sorry, Mr. Stenbridge, just want to announce we are now a 6-member board. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next is case BOA 154-2503 with the address of 118 B Street. This is also an Article 80 case. Mr. Moranci.
Thank you, Mr. Stenbridge. Good morning again, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is George Moranci. I'm an attorney. The business address at 350 West Broadway in South Boston. I represent Dunmo Group LLC and its principal, Charles McCarthy, who is here. Project architect Tim Johnson is also here. This proposed project consists of a new 5-story residential building situated at 118 B Street in South Boston's St. Vincent neighborhood. Project site is 12,367 square feet. The parcel is currently occupied by a 1 to 3-story commercial building with surface parking. My client proposes a new building of 33 residential condominium units with 26 accessory garage parking spaces and secure interior storage for 33 bicycles. There will be 6 IDP homeownership units providing 18% affordability, with 3 units at 100% AMI and 3 units at 80% AMI. This is an Article 80 small project, and during the course of the 10-month BBDA and community review of the building, the project, I should say, the building was reduced in height and massing with significant top floor setbacks on the public streets that are facing residential sides of the site, as well as reduction in the massing of the building so as to be more consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, particularly in respect to the site's proximity to Flaherty Park, which is located directly across East 3rd Street. Increased zoning compliance setbacks at the property line on B Street and the property line on West 3rd Street will allow for the planting of 5 new street trees associated with the project, also the creation of wider sidewalks to enhance the pedestrian experience adjacent to the site. Additionally, my client will be funding new curb cut extensions and crosswalks at B Street and West 3rd Street, which will allow for safer pedestrian access, advancing a key goal, as the BBDA recommendation notes, of the South Boston Transportation Access Plan. The zoning designation for this site is multifamily residential, MFR, the MFR subdistrict within Article 68. Proposed project is modestly taller and denser than what is allowed by zoning, which is appropriate for its transit-oriented location, which is just about a third of a mile from the MBTA's Broadway Rapid Transit Station on the Red Line. Zoning relief is required for minimum lot size for the 33 proposed units, floor area ratio, which is approximately 3.1, whereas 2.0 is allowed by code. Building height, which is 50 feet versus the 40 feet allowed by code. Minimum usable open space, the project provides 97 square feet per dwelling unit. The neighborhood was concerned about roof decks, which could have allowed for more open space, but there are frequently neighborhood concerns owing to potential noise migration from roof decks. Zoning relief is also required for the an insufficient rear yard setback, but I would point out that to the rear of this building is the wide expanse of the South Boston Hall Road. And finally, and as previously mentioned, owing to its proximity to Broadway Station, they provided off-street parking in 26 spaces for the 33 units also requires a variance. All of the zoning relief being requested was thoroughly reviewed by the BPDA during the Article 80 public process and was deemed appropriate from a planning standpoint, as reflected in the BPDA's board vote on October 13th of this year to approve the project and to recommend that the Board of Appeal grant the requested zoning relief. That I'll pause and take any questions that board members may have.
Thank you, Mr. Morency. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. As you heard from the applicant's representation, this went through a robust BPDA-led community process. I understand that many residents were pleased with the 17% affordability, as well as that these would be condominiums. People are eager to have more home ownership opportunities in the neighborhood. The applicant received support from the St. Vincent's Neighborhood Association, as well as the West Broadway Civic. We do not have any letters on file. I believe those were forwarded to the BPDA, and they provide this to the board. With that, we'll defer to the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no raised hands.
Good afternoon, Madam of the Chair, members of the board, Ana Calderon from Council President Flink's office. The councilor would like to go on record in support on this proposal. There were several meetings on these issues. Time and again, the development team worked to meet with both the civic group and community requests on various issues, like lowering the height on B Street, removing roof decks, reducing the unit count from 37 to 33, converting from rentals to homeownership units, increasing the affordable IDP units to 17% and maintaining parking spaces at 26, and adjusting the facade to maintain the character of the community. The 6 affordable IDP units, including a 3-bedroom unit, will also add to our city much needed affordable housing stock and help working families remain in Boston. This project also offers a reasonable amount of parking on site, which help with support of neighbors due to our existing parking crisis. Due to this point outline, the councilor would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the board, Paul Sullivan, for City Council, Michael Flaherty, echoing the sentiments Council President Flynn's office, acknowledging the green light when in drafting Article 16, the council would like to go on record in support.
Thank you. Thank you.
Minor? Minor?
Yes, thank you, Madam Ambassador. Madam Chair, members of the board, I just want to go on record in support of this project.
Steve Flaherty? Mr. Flaherty?
No? Okay, I have no additional raised hands.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, there were comments from the Disabilities Commission about the project.
Okay, do you want to read it into the record and give Mr.
Those are from the elevations. It does not appear that all entrances are accessible. Several entrances appear to have steps going into the building. For new construction, all entrances should be accessible. With a comment.
Mr. Moranci, do you want to?
Yes, Madam Chair, and I will have Tim Johnson speak to it, but I will, of course, first assure that the building will meet all accessibility requirements. I'm not sure exactly what is being referred to in the letter, but Tim Johnson may have a better idea. Tim?
Yeah, thank you, George. Madam Chair, Tim Johnson, project architect. It could have been an older iteration, perhaps that they saw where the model, the 3D model was placed improperly on the terrain. But no, I assure you that all entrances will be handicap accessible. We have an elevator service in all floors to make all units handicap adaptable. So no, we're very focused on making sure this is a total accessible building, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? With that, may I have a motion? I'm sorry, is Mr. Flaherty trying to speak on this project? Or Ms. Flaherty?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, are you speaking on this project?
Yes, just a question actually, just for Mr. Moranci, because I saw as he flipped through the slides, I saw a couple different variations of the project. I saw one with a ramp leading down into a lower garage on two of the separate slides, and one of them I think I saw 3 level stackers. Just clarification on the parking, please. And I guess my for or against would be depending upon the answer, because I was involved in the community process. Thank you.
Mr. Moranci, would you like to address that?
Yes, I mean, I can, obviously I didn't control the slide presentation, so I'm not sure exactly which slides, but Tim, maybe you could talk to
Yes.
the garage access and the parking, please.
Yes, I think the slide that the gentleman was referring to was the proposed plot plan, which did have the older iteration of the vehicle lifts noted on that plan. But the parking is a ramp down to a lower level parking area for a total of 26 parking spaces. There will be no vertical lifts in this building.
So Tim, if I may just clarify for the record, it was simply the site plan which showed the lifts that were present in the first iteration, but all of the architectural drawings are correct in that they show the ramp down to a second level of parking that is not utilizing vehicle lift systems of any kind.
That is correct.
Thank you. With that, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll put forward a motion of approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Rulo?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. And before we proceed, just a reminder, as a 6-member board, applicants are entitled to an administrative deferral should you wish to request one. Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes, Madam Chair. Next is case BOA 1535255 with the address of 50 Terminal Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain?
Brian? Are you on? Can you raise your
Okay,
hand?
I unmuted myself.
There you go.
Hello? Are you able to hear me?
Are you on?
Brian, we can hear you.
There's an echo.
Can we hang up on the phone? Hello?
Yes, you sound great, thank you. Please proceed. Can you hear us?
Hello, does anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? I think he's having technical problems. Okay, well, we can hear you, but it sounds like you cannot hear us.
Hello?
Jessica, do you want to suggest, I don't know if you should.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you now.
We can hear him the whole time. The question is, can you hear us? It doesn't sound like you can hear us. Are you able to hear us, Brian?
Can you guys hear me here? See my picture?
He can't hear us.
Shoot, what do I do?
You were on two devices earlier. Were you on a
Select
phone?
speaker bars.
Hey, so this is Sean Breen with the mayor's office. He actually called me earlier. He could not hear us on the video, but obviously we can hear him.
Guys.
Yeah, I don't know how you want to handle this. I don't know if Sean, you want to try to help him, maybe.
I have his phone number. I can
I'm not
sure. Call him
or maybe
Madam Chair, I would suggest we take a 10-minute break. Yeah, so we can talk with the applicant. Sadly, this is the last one for the 11 a.m.s.
Okay, we can do that. Let's take a 10-minute break.
Recording stopped.
And there's the call.
Hey, Brian.
I can't hear anything on here.
Yeah, I know.
Are they able to hear?
Okay, so let's do a roll call. Mr. Stenbridge?
Present.
Mr. Valencia?
Present.
Ms. Wewell?
Present.
Ms. Mukahal?
Present.
Ms. Logue?
Present.
Okay, floor is somebody's, Mr. Stenbridge or Brian.
I'll start us off, sure.
Thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 153-5255 with the address of 50 Terminal Street. Brian, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, and I'm really sorry about the inconvenience. Everything worked perfectly up until pretty much up to bat. My name's Brian too. I own the baking truck, Bake Cafe, and I'm just looking to continue the status quo of having the restaurant open and being able to stock our food trucks and be able to go out and vend and do private parties and that sort of thing. This has been going on for 7 years. I'm just trying to keep the status quo able to continue. Does that make sense? I apologize. I don't really know the procedures here well.
You're fine, you're fine. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may we have public testimony? I know you're doing double duty, Sean, so.
Yeah, I appreciate it. One moment. All right, Madam Chair, members of the board, Sean Breen here with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. An abutters meeting was held at 50 Terminal Street on November 2nd. Since that time, this office has received 0 letters in opposition and 0 in support. With that, we defer our judgment to the board.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Jafar, you looking to give testimony? Hand is raised. Hi. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Hello? What was the question?
No, were you here to give testimony on this proposal? I see your hand is raised.
It's not a question for the applicant.
Okay. I have no additional raised hands.
Okay, with that, any other questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
No.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next, we'll move on to the rediscussions that's scheduled for 11:30 a.m. First case is BOA 151-6206 with the address of 41 Coolidge Road. The applicant and or their representative present to explain.
Yes, I'm here.
Please proceed.
Okay, my name is Steve Brickman, and I was at the hearing on Thursday, and I'm just requesting to be able to put a driveway on the right side of my house.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see the plans that are up. Is there any slide that you want Ms. Ambassador to turn to?
This is the only slide that's available.
Okay, well, is there anything else about the slide you want to highlight? Size of the curve, width of the curve, anything?
Well, my request is for a curb cut so that I can just put a driveway on the side to be able to park a couple of cars on the side of the house.
Okay. Questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Frank Mendoza, also Brighton liaison for the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services here. We did receive 1 letter of opposition from a resident of Holman Street to this project. Other than that, we're not aware of any other community feedback on this. The proponent did go present to the Elson Civic Association, who did provide a letter of support for the project. That said, we would like to defer to the judgment of this board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, I have no raised hands.
Okay. Hearing no questions from the board, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I was the one who voted denial on this at the subcommittee. I would again move for denial, just, staying consistent with the BPDA recommendation and, the violations that this parking creates, as well as the loss of mature trees, or one tree, I believe.
Okay.
What is the tree that's being lost?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think
what is
that
the
was
tree?
in the recommendation we had on the 7th. For 41 Coolidge, it says, building this driveway would also require cutting down a mature tree on the property.
Would the applicant like to respond to the comment on the tree?
The tree was going to come down one way or another, even if this project were not approved, because it is a mature tree, I guess, in the sense that it's been there for a while, but it's also a tree that is, the growth of the tree is hitting up against the side of my neighbor's house. So I wouldn't imagine that they would like that to continue to be there. I was going to take the tree down anyways.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Okay, I'm sorry, there was a motion, did someone second it?
I did second it.
Okay. Mr. Stenbridge?
No.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
The chair votes no, the motion does not carry.
Can I ask you a question, please?
If
Madam Chair, you're in the middle of voting. If the board wants to offer another motion, they certainly can. Or if
yeah,
they-
sorry, if the applicant could just hold. Is there another motion?
I'll make a motion of denial without prejudice.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal?
Yes.
Ms. Logue?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. Motion carries. If the applicant can work with the staff, I know you have a question. I think they can address that.
I'm sorry, are you allowing me to ask a question?
I'm encouraging you to follow up with the staff, the ISD staff, for follow-up.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 1514976 with the address of 26 Montrose Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain to the board?
He was on here earlier. Are you still on, sir?
Yes, I believe he's added as a panelist. He should be able.
Okay. You could unmute yourself if you're on.
Sir, we can't hear you. We see you, but we can't hear you. Okay, we seem to have a lot of mic issues today. Yeah, unfortunately we can see you, but I can see you moving, but we just can't hear you. So if he's muted and calls on his phone, would that work? Would we be able to hear him, or would he create an echo that way? Anybody know?
If he
If he stays muted.
Yeah, I think if he uses his phone to call in but stays muted, it will.
Yeah, can you try muting yourself and calling in? We'd like to hear you today if possible.
Or sometimes I think the computer will revert to the wrong microphone, but sounds like he does that.
Mr. DeFar, you have to mute the computer. No.
Yes, can you hear us now?
Oh, yes, we can. Perfect.
Perfect. Hello. Well, apologies, Madam Chair and the members of the board for the issues in terms of the microphone, but my name is Abraham Hale. I'm also here with my father, Befkadu Defar, and we're here to speak about the request for 26 Montrose Street.
Perfect. Please proceed.
Perfect. Okay. We also submitted a PowerPoint presentation to the to this. Do you guys have that here within the packet? Because it goes over all of the points. This looks like these are the blueprints, but essentially the two violations that we would like to speak about are the parking violations, and then also the violations of regarding the side yard insufficient space. Two of those violations, both of them are, we feel as if we have surpassed the requirements. So if we can just go ahead and go through this, if you could just keep scrolling down. These are just the plans for what we're trying to do is essentially extend the current attic space to make it a full 3 units, so to make that space a 3-family, the third unit. And we are currently zoned for a 3-family with over 7,000 square feet lot. So there shouldn't be any issues at this point. So you can see right here, this is the parking layout. Originally, the parking wasn't sufficient, but now since my father has purchased the building, he's completely repaved the parking spaces, and there's actually more than enough parking units. There's 4 parking spaces that are able to be used very easily without any obstruction, but we can park over 6 to 8 cars in this parking area with no issues at all. So just the 4 spaces alone with no obstructions definitely gives us sufficient space for the parking. And then also in terms of the violation with the side yard, we are a little over 5 feet from the abutting property line, but we're also well more than 10 feet of the abutting property. The property on the right side of us has the building is basically set back because there's a parking lot area between the building and their property line. So the actual building is set back over 20 to 25 feet from their actual property line. So we definitely fit the criteria of over 10 feet from the abutting property. And can you scroll down? Okay, yeah, so this is actually our whole PowerPoint presentation that shows it. So if you want to just go through it really quickly, this is just the agenda, and then we kind of go through some of the talking points here. Just again, talks about 26 Montrose is zoned for a 3-family, total square feet of approximately 7,700 feet. Plans are to increase the usable square footage without changing the highest point or width of the building. You'll see just some of the design plans for the proposed design plans for the actual plan. These are we just showed, some properties on the same street with the same height that we're looking to eventually have. Here's just a comparison of driveway now versus before, where you'll see before it was an old driveway, overgrown, unpaved, and now we've done more than enough to show you that there's more than enough space for parking for unobstructed cars. And then Yeah, that's the, I believe is that the entirety of the actual PowerPoint? Yeah, and then these are just some of the explanations of the floor area ratio that's no longer, but here's a good picture that shows you what I was speaking of, whereas the right side, the property is completely set back way past 10 feet of their actual property line, so we should be in compliance at that point.
Thank you. Are there questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. Some background information on the community process. This went through an extensive ONS-led community process where an abutters meeting was held, and then the applicant was in touch in addition to presenting with the Roxbury Path Forward Neighborhood Association meeting several times. Ultimately, the Roxbury Path Forward Neighborhood Association voted to support this proposal. They were pleased with the changes made to house the parking spaces in the existing driveway and make sure it conformed with BTD's guidelines. The Civic Association had also asked that the board consider a BPA design review related to the proposed changes to the attic because of this area, this falling in the Moreland Street Historic District. With that, we'll defer to the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Newman.
Lorraine?
Hi, my name is Lorraine Payne-Wheeler, and I'm presenting today on behalf of Roxbury Path Forward Neighborhood Association. And as Connor mentioned, there was an abutters meeting as well as a neighborhood meeting. And the consistent question that came up again and again was about the parking. And so Mr. Defer did, repave his driveway and try to, make agreements with the abutting neighbors to make sure that they would be able to park on site. So we support the project.
Thank you. Any other raised hands?
Nope, no other raised hands, thank you.
Okay, so with that, may I have a motion?
Put forward a motion of approval with BPA design review.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stumbridge.
If I could try and amend the motion to also include BTD design review.
Is that acceptable? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Stumbridge.
Yes.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes.
Ms. Wewell.
Yes.
Ms. Mukahal.
Yes.
Ms. Logue.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck. Okay.
Yes, Madam
Sorry.
Chair, we'll need to take a break till 1 p.m.
That's what I was gonna say, and just so folks know ahead of time, we will be a 5-member board at that time. Thank you. See you then.